do self-introduction. All right, so my brother is going to help me. You have the microphone. Kindly skip this first row and then begin the second. Please, your name, your institution, and possibly your designation. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Kennedy Amiaba, Wesley College Principal.
I'm Eldo Obeng, Wesley College Academic Affairs Officer.
I'm Musa Ibrahim Epampo, Acting Principal, Savannah College.
My name is Nanaba Jan. I'm the Dean of the School of Engineering and Technology, Central University.
I'm Shani Usman, Nusra Jahan Ahmadiyya College of Education, WA, Principal.
I am Wahab Swaliu, Principal, Al Farouk College of Education.
I am Engineer Abdul Shakur Idrisu, Tamale Technical University, Director of ICT.
I'm Prof. Peter Agbadimnam, Principal, Tumu College of Education.
I am Nathaniel Akom, Camfed Ghana, ITT.
I'm Abinabi Isaac, Head of Security, Accra College of Education.
Alex Tre, Senior Manager with the Cybersecurity Authority.
I'm Emmanuel Boateng, ABTV College of Education.
I'm Emmanuel Togo, CTO Garnet. Sylvester Hachu from Accra University.
Stanley Kukubo from Agogo Presby Women's College of Education.
Saibu Seidu, Savannah College of Education.
Wandaya Anani, University of Ghana.
I'm Dr. Samuel Ajimai, the principal of BIALAM Laita College of Education, Sefi Debiso.
Please skip the media. Thank you.
Jacob Akuno, GTEC.
Also, Emmanuel, Team Lead for Offensive Security, Deloitte.
Papa Kranchi Accra CSA Board.
Professor Benjamin Yankson, University of Albany, State University of New York. Thank you.
Dr. Regina Ochedankwa, Principal, Ola College of Education, Cape Coast.
Lawrence Senano Jineku, IT Officer, NACA.
Daniela Puri, Head of IT Security, Jimpa.
Peter Uhuria Takra, SDA College of Education, Principal.
Isaac Godfred Entry, Principal, St. Joseph's College of Education, Betchim.
Alaro Rabiu, IT Officer, EP College of Education, Bimbla.
Professor Isahaku Haruna, UDS.
Timothy Simpson, Takrady Technical University.
Cynthia Ayenim, Presbyterian Women's College of Education, Ebri, Principal.
Professor Vincent Ajan Lemens, Principal, NaCEC College of Education, Asokoriko Frudia.
Emmanuel Jedanso, Accra Technical University.
I am Christiana Peprada Banka from St. Louis, Kumasi.
Prince Boateng, Adam College of Education, Principal.
Dr. Mohamed Suraj, Director of Graduate Studies, Academic City University.
Professor Clement Ali, Principal, St. John Bosco College of Education, Navrongo.
Benjamin Hackman, Acting Head, MIS GTEC.
Dr. Adley Grace Mensah Kufuor, Accra Technical University. Thank you.
George Amanochu, Accra Technical University.
Cyril Titi, Commander College of Education.
Umar Farouk Mumin, St. Laws.
Dr. Senak Beglo, Executive Secretary, Vice Chancellor, Ghana.
Sambonima Boachi, National Teaching Council.
Benedict Ajan, National Teaching Council.
Elmo Befi Jebison from Ulster, Ghana Limited. Thank you.
Godfrey Bruntiama, Classical Engineering.
Abdul Manaf Suleiman, Association of African Universities, IT Officer.
Enoch Tete, Software Developer, EAU.
Awate Tete, Association of African Universities.
Musa Zakaria, College Secretary, Barbara College of Education.
Pamela Maushi Foley, Network Manager, University of Ghana.
Georgette Mekwakisi, Network and Security Engineer, University of Ghana.
Tete Emmanuel, Data Center Specialist, University of Ghana.
Ernest Ozuoche, Applications Developer, University of Ghana.
Enoch Adama, IT Manager, Accra Metropolitan University.
Jesse Saki, Accra Metropolitan University, Admissions Officer.
Venerable Dr. David Ochre Franchi, Principal at Monica's College of Education, Asante Mampo. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have some of our guests also at the extreme left, if we can have them do the introduction.
Dr. John Edumazi, Director of IT, University of Cape Coast.
Gabriel Asama, Head of IT Support, UCC.
Kwame Asante of Accra Technical University, Database Administrator.
Right, Asante Buafo, Offensive College of Education.
Dr. Nanaya Diodu, Accra Technical University.
Dodo Kwashi, Accra Technical University.
Audrey Asante, University of Technology.
Samuel Kelly-Brew, Network Engineer, Garnet.
Kuna Watson, NMTC that is over. Ahafo. My name is Boris IC, Promo Ghana LTD.
Halidu Musa, Bewa College of Education, Busiga, Boko, Upper East Region.
Shaibu Fatah Akudugu, Bewa College.
Thank you all very much. Now, with the geographical location, you have a clear idea of where some of you are coming from. It signals the importance of the maiden National Cybersecurity Education Conference. So please, help me appreciate all of you with a hand of applause. If you can do that with me. Thank you very much. There don't seem to be a lot of energy in your clap. I'm not sure whether you have taken breakfast yet, but please help me applaud all of you for your effort, for all the effort of all collaborators. We are sincerely grateful. And permit me to single out one particular individual that is representing a section of the panel or the audience that we have here, the Executive Secretary of VCG, Dr. Senna Peklo. Please help me appreciate her. Help me do that specially. Now, we planned this program with the Ghana Education Service, of course, our own mother ministry with GTech. And then at the last minute, we had to rope in Dr. Senna Peklo. And one of the things I told her was, we are not reaching our right constituencies. We're not getting feedback. Can you help us reach there? Can you promote this for us? And Dr. Senna Peklo singularly picked this up, and she was on a number of platforms, and so we are sincerely grateful. We thank all of you for your presence here. We have a host, so this facility tells you that the conference, of course, the Cybersecurity Authority is hosting this event, but we are partnering with the institutions that I mentioned the names earlier. And so we are expecting the Director General of GTech to be here very soon to deliver a significant remarks to open this session. But even before he comes in, permit me just to run you through, for those of you who did not get the opportunity of the purpose of this gathering, and especially why the education conference. Now, our world has gone digital, and the implications are what we see on a daily basis. We are looking at enormous opportunities. We are also witnessing threats, of which the higher education sector stands at the forefront of both the opportunities and the threats. Currently, we know that digital technologies drive teaching, learning, research, administration. It enables efficiency, and it also enables a lot of the things that we do in the education sector, importantly, innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are aware that the digitalization of our sector has also exposed us to a number of cyber threats, such as data breaches, such as extortion, cyberbullying, admission scams, and many that we'll be talking about in the course of today's deliberation. Today, the maiden conference brings together experts, educators, stakeholders, and the goal, the drive, is to shape what is happening in our sector, not just futuristically, but present, and then also going into the future. We have a better appreciation of what our sector holds and what kind of brainstorming we'll be doing. Today's session offers us the platform to learn, to share thoughts, to drive policy. So, in the next year to come, what kind of cybersecurity policy do you want to see driving the education sector? And I believe that the meat of today's session, which is going to be the panel discussion, you would also get the opportunity to share your thoughts. That will be the brief purpose of our gathering here. We will do the opening prayer, and it's my pleasure to call on the Director of Administration at the Cybersecurity Authority, Ms. Mercy Araba Ketson. Help me welcome her, please.
Good morning to you all. Please, if you are able to stand, you can stand. If you are not, you can sit down whilst we pray. Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for today. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to see another day and to gather here once again to share issues that are pertinent to cybersecurity and education. We pray that as we gather here, you shall continue to guide us and direct us, that at the end of the day, we shall have a fruitful section. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Madam Mercy Araba Ketson. For those of you who do not have the privilege of the agenda today, we'll be walking in the significant part of it. Today we will be part of a key panel discussion that will look at cyber, the involvement of cybersecurity in our education sector. not just what the threats are, but also what the opportunities are and what the reality is, what we are witnessing now as a country. It will give us a better appreciation to also reflect on the theme for this year, empowering higher education for cyber resilience and digital rights. There are key terms within the theme that I believe when the moderator takes a microphone, he would help us to appreciate that the more. Empowering higher education for cyber resilience and digital rights. You have already witnessed some of them in your respective institutions. The question is, what step did you take? Was it first about the reputation of your institution or the resilience of Ghana? Did you report that even to the regulator? What steps were taken? I believe that during the panel discussion, you could get the opportunity to share your thought. Today's panel discussion, of course, we are not zooming into that session yet, but we'll be listening to the thought from the Ministry of Education. We'll also be listening to the thought from the perspective of the regulator, the Cybersecurity Authority. One of our partners, the Accra Technical University, also has a representative here. We want to pick it right from the perspective of the academia. Then GTech, which is also a partner of this program, would be listening to their take as well. From the industry, Deloitte Ghana has a representative here, and we would be listening to them as well. Dr. Benjamin Youngson, who also possibly represents private, but is also coming from an environment that possibly we would be very much interested to learn the best practices, would also be presenting his own thoughts as well. And so that is just to give you an idea of the different perspectives and ideas that we will be digesting and the topics that we'll be brainstorming. We are still yet to receive the Director General of GTech, but since he's the host, it's my pleasure to welcome my Director General, Mr. Divine Akbeti, the Acting Director General of the Cybersecurity Authority, to give us the opening remarks. Please help me welcome Mr. Divine Selassie Akbeti.
The representative of the Minister for Education, Professor Diyaw Mumin, also the Executive Director at Sendelos. The Director General of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, Professor Ahmed Abdullahi Jinapor, who will be with us very soon. Vice Chancellors, Principals, Directors of Cybersecurity and IT, distinguished representatives from the Ministry of Education, colleagues from academia, colleagues from industry, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to welcome you to the maiden edition of the National Cybersecurity Education Conference, held under the theme Empowering Higher Education for Cyber Resilience and Digital Rights. This theme underscores the shared national commitment between the Cybersecurity Authority, the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, and all tertiary institutions. To build a future where Ghana's digital transformation is not only innovative and inclusive, but also secure, informed, and accountable. Globally, cybercrime is projected to reach $10.5 trillion by the end of 2025. That's a lot of money, making it one of the largest transfers of economic wealth in history. At the same time, the global cybersecurity workforce shortfall is approximately 4 million professionals, according to the 2024 ISE Squared Workforce Study. Here in Ghana, digitalization continues to advance with over 24 million citizens, representing nearly 70% of our population, now relying on the internet for learning, governance, essential services, and commerce. However, this progress has increased exposure to digital risk. The education sector, which holds vast amounts of sensitive data, has become an increasing target for cyber criminals. In recent years, our tertiary institutions have experienced incidents ranging from grade alteration, attempts and forged academic certificates, to question leakages, sextortion, admission scams, and cyberbullying, all of which undermine student welfare and institutional integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, our education sector has been designated as critical information infrastructure, and its protection is essential to our national security, stability, and development. For this reason, the CSA has prioritized education within Ghana's National Cyber Resilience Strategy, guided by the Cybersecurity Act 2020, which we all know as Act 1038, and the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy. Our initiatives aim to integrate cybersecurity principles into teaching, learning, and institutional management. In 2024, the CSA participated in the Ministry of Education's technical working group that reviewed the ICT in education policy, ensuring cybersecurity, data protection, and digital ethics were integral to the process. I wish to respectfully urge the Honorable Minister for Education to prioritize its finalization, as its implementation will mark a major milestone in securing Ghana's education digital ecosystem. Working with Sendelos, thank God the Executive Director is here, the CSA also contributed to the development of Ghana's EdTech strategy, integrating cybersecurity principles to make digital learning safer and more trustworthy. Our partnership with GTech seeks to establish a national cybersecurity competency and qualification framework, creating a structured learning pathway from basic cyber literacy to advanced professional certification. A draft memorandum of understanding has been submitted to GTech to formalize this collaboration. I therefore urge the Director General of GTech to expedite its finalization so that implementation can begin, ensuring cybersecurity becomes an integral and accredited part of higher education across Ghana. Recognizing education as a critical information infrastructure, the CSA is collaborating closely with the Ministry of Education to establish the Education Sectoral Computer Emergency Response Team, known as the EduCERT. This structure will facilitate coordinated responses to cyber incidents across universities and colleges, enhancing our ability to detect, analyze, and respond to data breaches, ransomware, and online abuse within the academic environment. Through our capacity building and awareness creation initiatives, the CSA has reached over 5.6 million adults between January and October 2025, a remarkable increase from 102,000 in 2022. This progress demonstrates our collective effort toward building a cyber-aware and resilient society. However, the task ahead requires even greater integration of cybersecurity into all aspects of education. Cybersecurity can no longer be limited to IT departments or computer science labs. It must become as essential as literacy or numeracy. Every student, whether studying medicine, law, business, or education, should develop a basic understanding of digital safety and responsibility. When a nursing student learns to protect patient data, when a business student grasps privacy in e-commerce, and when a teacher trainee is prepared to guide children safely online, that is when cybersecurity truly becomes embedded in education. Ladies and gentlemen, I commend the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, and the Accra Technical University for their leadership and collaboration in organizing this landmark conference. I hope this gathering will become an annual event for academia, policymakers, and industry to share insights, build partnerships, and bridge the gap between cybersecurity education and practice. The CSA remains firmly committed to this partnership. Together, we can make sure that cybersecurity education is at the heart of Ghana's digital future, safeguarding students' rights, strengthening our institutions, and supporting our goal of a secure and trusted digital nation. Thank you.
Mr. Divine Selassie Agbeti is the Acting Director General of the Cybersecurity Authority. Sir, thank you very much for setting the right tone for today's event. We will take the keynote address, and that will be delivered by Professor Diao Mumin, the Executive Director, SENDLOS, and he is representing the Minister for Education, Honorable Haruna Idrisu.
Acting Director General of the Cybersecurity Authority, Mr. Divine Selassie Agbeti. Director General of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, Professor Ahmed Jinapo Abdullahi. The Vice Chancellor, Accra Technical University, Chairman, Vice Chancellors, Ghana, President, Principals of Colleges of Education, Ghana, all Vice Chancellors and Principals present, development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Minister for Education, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, will have wished to be part of this gathering as he is passionate about digital education. However, it has been caught up with equally important events. So therefore, it is an honor to deliver the keynote speech at this maiden National Cybersecurity Education Conference on behalf of the Honorable Minister for Education. This conference, under the theme Empowering Higher Education for Cyber Resilience and Digital Rights. This gathering is a call to action, a call to rethink how education, policy, and technology intersects in shaping Ghana's digital future. I commend the Cybersecurity Authority, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, the Ministry of Education, the Accra Technical University, all collaborators and sponsors for their leadership in organizing this conference. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent rapid digital transformation of society drastically influenced teaching and learning. Students are increasingly using digital tools in their studies. What many may not be aware of, however, is that our students and educational institutions are increasingly at risk. Based on Microsoft's October 2024 cybersecurity report, the education sector is at risk of cyber attacks, and it's becoming more prevalent in other sectors. Educational institutions faces an average of 2,507 cyber attack attempts per week globally, with the universities being prime targets for malware, phishing, and IoT threats. The National Cybersecurity Emergency Response Team of the Cybersecurity Authority, as part of its ongoing dark web surveillance activities, to identify leaked critical information related to organizations in Ghana from January 2025 till date, indicates that 505 employee credentials, including email addresses and passwords belonging to government educational institutions, were compromised. Additionally, over 5,000 Stealer logs were extracted, with more than 1,000 made available for sale on various forums and marketplaces on the dark web. The sector is a target for cyber criminals due to the vast amount of sensitive data it handles, including health records, financial data, and other regulated information. And that is why the sector must prioritize enhanced security measures. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Education recognizes that sound policy must be our first line of defense in building a secure and resilient educational system. In 2024, the Ministry, working through a multi-stakeholder technical working group comprising the Cybersecurity Authority, SEMDLOS, NACA, and other key partners, undertook a comprehensive review of the ICT in education policy and also the EdTech strategy to embed cybersecurity and digital safety across all levels of education. I think the last democratization workshop on the ethics strategy was held yesterday. In this review, emphasis was placed on strengthening the educational sector on cybersecurity and digital safety to promote a digitally inclusive and safe environment for the use of ICTs in schools. This emphasis resulted from sustained advocacy and expert contributions from the cybersecurity professionals who served on the technical working group, ensuring that safety and resilience are built into how we teach, learn, and innovate. However, this revised policy is yet to be finalized, and the ministry is committed to giving it the needed attention to ensure its completion and implementation. I'm also reliably informed that the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC, is working with the Cybersecurity Authority to finalize and sign the Memorandum of Understanding that will lead to the development of a national cybersecurity qualification and competency framework. This initiative will bridge academia and industry, creating a clear pathway from foundational cyber literacy for all students to advanced professional specializations. Therefore, I employ the Director General of GTEC to fast-track the review and final process of this MOU, so implementation can commence and measurable outcomes for students, educators, and institutions can be developed. Our vision as a ministry is for every student, regardless of discipline, whether in business, nursing, engineering, or arts, should graduate with a grounding in cybersecurity and digital ethics. Cybersecurity must no longer live only in IT departments, as stated by the Cybersecurity Authority Director. It must become a general course and a cross-cutting skill for every learner. Our universities and colleges must begin to treat cybersecurity as a matter of governance and national security, not just a technical course or area of study. The ministry, working with the Cybersecurity Authority, is exploring the establishment of an education sector computer emergency response team. This sectoral computer emergency response team will work with the National Computer Emergency Response Team to serve as a mechanism for detecting, coordinating, and responding to cyber incidents within the education ecosystem. From e-learning platforms to admission portals and research databases, we have seen the dangers firsthand. Admission scams, sextortions, cyberbullying, and attempts to manipulate grades or forge certificates. These incidents undermine trust, damage lives, and threaten the credibility of our educational system. We must therefore act collectively and decisively to build a safe, trusted, and accountable academic environment. We are committed to creating an educational system that equips every student with cybersecurity awareness, and digital rights literacy, and secures the digital infrastructure of our institution. According to the World Economic Forum's Global Cybersecurity Outlook 2024, the world faces a shortage of nearly 4 million cybersecurity professionals. That gap represents both a challenge and an opportunity for Ghana to become a regional leader in cyber education and talent development. Through effective policy, regulation, and institutional leadership, we can build a tertiary education system that is not only digital, but secure, ethical, and resilient. Let us work together as government, regulators, educators, and partners to secure the promise of our digital transformation for every learner, every educator, and every institution. I thank you all for all this.
Professor Mumin, thank you very much. And so we'll have the opportunity now to go back to protocol and pick up what we missed earlier. It's typical of entering into a familiar house and picking water when you have not been offered water. But usually with GTech, you can't behave familiar, especially when you are in the academia. The moment you behave familiar, they will start investigating your title. It's my pleasure to welcome Professor Ahmed Jinapor Abdullahi, Director General, Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTech, to deliver the welcome address. Please, with a hand of applause, help me welcome him.
I said, why? Was he waiting for me? Or? Anyway, I want to apologize for coming in late. I had a couple of meetings that were scheduled for the morning, but unfortunately they came late. And these are military officers, and they don't know whether they are late or not. Once they are here, you have to attend to them. So I want to apologize for that. The representative of the Honorable Minister for Education, I see the Vice Chancellor for UPS is hiding behind there. Prof, you cannot hide. You have to come forward. Please, come forward. I mean, all Vice Chancellors should try and come forward. Vice Chancellors. Apart from him, is there any other Vice Chancellor here? Executive Secretary for Vice Chancellors, I understand, is also here. Look, please come. This is GTech. We follow protocol. So, busy. Come here. And I really want to acknowledge the presence of our principals. I think they are the most represented here. Let's give them a... I was speaking to Director General for Cybersecurity to find out if they invited individuals from the health sector. Is there any health sector principal here? Not even one. That is unfortunate. It's one of the very, very important sectors that we need to get them involved when it comes to these issues. So next time, I think we should be involved. So the Chief Executive Officer of the Cybersecurity Authority, my very good brother and friend, Vice Chancellors, Rectors of universities, as well as principals of the 48 colleges of education, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is with immense pleasure and a deep sense of duty that I welcome you all to this year's National Cyber Security Education Conference. On behalf of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTech, I express our profound appreciation to the Cyber Security Authority, the Ministry of Communications and Digitization, our tertiary institutions, industry partners, and all who have made time to join us in this crucial national conversation. Your presence affirms a shared conviction that safeguarding Ghana's digital future begins in the classroom, the laboratory, and the lecture hall. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme, Empowering Higher Education for Cyber Resilience and Digital Rights, is not only apt, but visionary. Around the world, nations are grappling with the rapid pace of digital transformation, and Ghana is no exception. From online admissions systems and virtual learning environments to cloud-based research collaborations, our tertiary institutions have embraced technology as a tool for progress. Yet, these same digital platforms have become targets of cyber threats that endanger institutional credibility, compromise data, and disrupt academic continuity. Across the tertiary landscape, whether a large public university or a nascent college of education, the stakes are very high. A single cyber attack can cripple administrative systems, expose student data, and erode public trust in the integrity of our educational sector. The responsibility to protect these systems rests on all of us, regulators, educators, students, and policymakers alike. Cybersecurity is no longer the domain of IT departments. It is a civic and educational imperative that demands critical thinking, ethical reflection, and coordinated institutional action. Established under the Education Regulatory Bodies Act 2020, Act 1023, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission exists to regulate and promote quality, relevance, and equitable access across tertiary institutions. Our vision is to nurture a system that advances research, innovation, and human capital development for sustainable national growth. In this digital era, that vision extends beyond academic excellence. It encompasses digital integrity, data ethics, and technological resilience. The Commission is therefore intentional about integrating digital competencies and cybersecurity awareness into our quality assurance frameworks, program accreditation, and institutional audits. An MOU is set to be signed to strengthen DTEC's collaboration with the Cybersecurity Authority in this area. Ladies and gentlemen, we expect universities and colleges not only to produce employable graduates, but to nurture resilient graduates, individuals who understand the value of information, the sanctity of privacy, and the ethical use of technology in advancing Ghana's development. As part of this mandate, GTEC intends to collaborate with the Ministry of Communications and Digitization, the Cybersecurity Authority, and other development partners to create a cohesive policy environment where cybersecurity education can thrive. We aim to encourage curriculum reforms that integrate cybersecurity across disciplines, ensuring that engineering students, teacher trainees, and business graduates alike can act responsibly in the digital domain. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to recognize the tremendous contribution of the Cybersecurity Authority. Under the Cybersecurity Act 2020, Act 1038, the authority is mandated to regulate and promote cybersecurity activities, prevent and respond to cyber incidents, and build a resilient national digital ecosystem. The synergy between GTEC and Cybersecurity Authority is both natural and necessary. While GTEC ensures the integrity of teaching, research, and governance within tertiary institutions, the Cybersecurity Authority safeguards the integrity of national cyberspace. Our collaboration ensures that cyber awareness, risk management frameworks, and data protection standards become integral to institutional practice. Ladies and gentlemen, through initiatives such as joint policy dialogues, staff capacity development, and national awareness frameworks, we are laying the foundation for a tertiary education environment that is secure, responsive, and globally competitive. The Cybersecurity Authority's vision to build a resilient digital ecosystem and secure digital infrastructure complements GTEC's aspiration to cultivate digitally literate and ethically responsible citizens. Mr. Chairman, cyber threats have grown in sophistication and scale. Ransomware, phishing, identity theft, and in Ghana, what we refer to as Sakawa, and online misinformation now reach even the smallest colleges with internet connectivity. The rise of artificial intelligence has further complicated this landscape, introducing risk of data manipulation and algorithmic bias that can affect academic integrity. These threats go beyond financial laws. They touch on academic freedom, intellectual property, and human dignity. Universities house research critical to national development, be it data on health, energy, and agriculture that must remain protected. Colleges of education manage teacher records that shape our basic education workforce. A breach in any of these sectors undermines national confidence in digital governance. Thus, cybersecurity must be treated as part of institutional culture, not as a technical afterthought. Leadership within tertiary institutions must allocate resources for digital security infrastructure, establish policies for incident response, and train both staff and students to recognize and mitigate risk. GTEC, in its regulatory oversight, will continue to ensure that cybersecurity readiness forms part of institutional quality assurance indicators. The capacity of our education system to withstand and recover from cyber disruptions will soon define the credibility of our institutions, just as accreditation defines their academic standing. Cyber resilience is not only about technology, it is about people and principles. It speaks to the ability of institutions and individuals to anticipate, absorb, and adapt to digital shocks while protecting the rights of users. The notion of digital rights, the right to privacy, freedom of expression, and access to information is fundamental to democracy and academic inquiry. Ladies and gentlemen, tertiary education institutions must therefore balance innovation with ethics. In our pursuit of smart campuses and data-driven administration, we must ensure that surveillance technologies respect personal freedoms, that data collection practices comply with the law, and that students are educated about their digital responsibilities. The goal is to create an ecosystem where technology empowers learning and research without compromising rights or inclusiveness. This is the future that GTEC envisions, a tertiary system where resilience and responsibility coexist. Our young people are digital natives. They are inventors, entrepreneurs, and defenders of Ghana's digital tomorrow. To empower them, we must align pedagogy with practice, integrating cybersecurity models, ethical hacking labs, digital forensic training, and data protection awareness into mainstream education. Ladies and gentlemen, technical universities must serve as innovation hubs for practical cyber security solutions tailored to local needs. Colleges of education should incorporate digital safety training for teachers, ensuring that cybersecurity consciousness begins in the classroom long before university. And our research universities must lead Africa in producing evidence-based policies and innovations that strengthen national cybersecurity resilience. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, Ghana's quest to become a digitally resilient nation requires unity of vision. The Ministry of Communication and Digitization provides the national policy direction. The Cybersecurity Authority ensures enforcement and capacity. GTEC ensures that the human resource pipeline, be it students, lecturers, administrators, are adequately prepared. This conference is therefore more than a meeting. It is a movement towards collective responsibility, innovation, and ethical stewardship in cyberspace. As we deliberate, I urge the managers of our institutions to take home a renewed commitment to digital governance, data protection, and capacity development. Let us also use this platform to strengthen collaboration between academia and the private sector, for cybersecurity is both a national security concern and economic opportunity. To conclude, as a nation, we cannot afford complacency. Every institution that goes unprotected becomes a weak link in our national digital chain. Yet, in every challenge lies an opportunity. Ghana's youthful population, expanded tertiary system, and progressive regulatory environment give us the advantage to lead the continent in cybersecurity education and policy innovation. The Ghana Tertiary Education Commission stands ready to play its part with conviction, collaboration, and foresight. Together with the Cybersecurity Authority and our partners, We shall build a generation of informed citizens, resilient institutions, and a secure, respected digital Ghana. Distinguished guests, I welcome you once again to the National Cybersecurity Education Conference 2025. May our engagement be stimulating, our partnerships enduring, and our outcomes transformative for our institutions, our students, and our beloved country. Thank you, and may God bless our homeland country, Ghana.
Professor, thank you very much, and I hope you still feel welcome indeed. That's a very succinct welcome address by our host. We sincerely appreciate your forthrightness on this platform. So what does the cybersecurity ecosystem look like? What is the regulator seeing that you are not seeing? My colleague Alex Aretre will do a brief presentation on cyber hygiene, and then we move into the panel discussion. Please help me welcome him with a hand of applause. Thank you very much.
Good morning, distinguished guests. Please permit me to stand on existing protocols. Thank you very much for your audience. So as my Director General rightly said, the education sector has been designated as a critical information infrastructure sector. And by this presentation, we are going to consider the cybersecurity implications. Here we have the presentation outline. We will define what critical information infrastructure is, abbreviated as CII. We'll then look at the cybersecurity legislations, regulations, and policies in place, and the importance of cybersecurity or CII compliance certifications, and the need for compliance with regulations and policies. So here we have the definition, CII. It basically focuses on the critical systems which are essential to the performance of your institutional mandates. And it goes further to say that these systems are so critical that if they were to go down, if they were to be disrupted, it would have a significant effect on national security and or the socio-economic well-being of citizens. So we looked at the education sector, and it was determined that you were so critical based on these considerations. Next, we'll look at incidents to kind of practicalize the threats out there. The first incident looks at an incident on the SHS placement system. The next one, or the next couple, look at data breaches at Ivy League schools. In the middle, you have a data breach where the information, the personally identifiable information, PII, sensitive information of about 860,000 persons, comprising of applicants to the schools, school students, and the employees. This information was released to the dark web. Sensitive information was compromised. He also had a similar attack at Harvard University, where they also suffered a significant data breach. So these threats are out there, and it's a global phenomenon. So look at the legislations, regulations in place. So the overarching regulation is the Cybersecurity Act, right? Under that, we have national regulations, such as the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy document. We have the Directive for the Protection of CI, and also, which was launched last month, we have the Risk Assessment Framework for the Protection of CI. These documents, these legislations, these regulations are in place. Then we come to the institutional level. So within each of your institutions, you must have organizational policies in place. You must have a cybersecurity policy which adequately addresses the risks, the cybersecurity risks your institutions face, right? And then you must also ensure that in terms of certifications, your institutions are abide by the necessary international best standards. And also, you may be aware of the CSA's licensing and accreditation regime, which seeks to ensure that all cybersecurity professionals and all cybersecurity service providers are adequately vetted by the authority and certified, licensed, and accredited, so that when they come to your institutions, which have been designated as critical, they are coming to perform competent work. So again, this is what's happening in terms of frameworks, legislations, regulations in place. So this slide provides an overview of the different provisions, different sections in the Cybersecurity Act, Act 1038. It ranges from protection of children online to the establishment of national and sectoral computer emergency response teams. It's in the same vein my Director General mentioned that the education sector will be establishing its own computer emergency response team, which will then work in collaboration with the National Computer Emergency Response Team, GH. Yes, but for the purpose of this program, again, with the education sector as a CI, we're going to focus on provisions 35 to 40, which focus on the protection of CI. So section 35 gives the Honorable Minister the mandate to designate sectors, designate computer systems and networks which are deemed as critical as CI. So that was done for the education sector. Section 36 stresses the importance of registering the critical systems with the authority, thereby permitting us to be able to work with you based on the different or a plethitude of data gathering intelligence mechanisms, to be able to then work with you directly to inform you about threats, vulnerabilities, etc. out there, to work with you to help you address risks, vulnerabilities you may have to protect your system. So that's why the registration process is so important. Section 37 also gives the minister to remove a designation if it is deemed that this entity is no longer critical. So the law provides for that as well. Section 38 focuses on audits, which must be performed within your institutions to ensure compliance with the different regulations, legislations we mentioned earlier. Section 39 imposes a responsibility on each and every one of you with regards to the detection of incidents. Now, the law states that within 24 hours of detecting a cybersecurity incident, this must be reported to the National Computer Emergency Response Team. Once the educational cert is in place, it should be reported to the educational cert within 24 hours, and they would liaise with the national cert. But this Section 39 imposes this obligation, this responsibility on each and every one of you here for us to safeguard our digital ecosystem. Because when you report, we not only work with you to address the issues, but then we can also alert other stakeholders within the educational sector and the other sectors, which we'll look at later, the other sectors, so that everybody is aware that this incident has happened, or there's this threat out there. Would issue an advice that there's this threat out there. These are the recommendations on how to safeguard your systems so that we are all collectively protected. And Section 40 basically applies punitive measures to the unauthorized access of critical systems. So here we're talking about administrative penalties and even jail time for persons who access critical systems without authorization. Again, we have to reference the national security element, importance of socioeconomic well-being. This is why that law puts so much emphasis on why such systems in your sector must be protected. So next slide looks at the actual text, which gives the minister that mandate. And again, it heavily stresses your relevance with regards to national security and the socio-economic well-being of the citizens of our country. So the education sector is very important. So here we look at 13 sectors which have been designated in the country as CII. Now, not only education, we also have ICT, national security and intelligence, energy. Our Director General from GTech mentioned the importance of health, the health sector, which has also been captured as a designated CI sector. So here, 13 sectors which we focus on to ensure our collective safety. Then now moving on from the Act, we're going to now look at the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy document. And here we're going to zoom into Section 6.02, which focuses on securing digital infrastructure, hence securing digital infrastructure in the educational sector for the purpose of this discussion. Now, the first step, or Section 2.01, focus on the adoption of a cybersecurity risk management framework. Now, in furtherance to this goal, as I mentioned earlier, last month, the CSA launched the risk assessment framework to aid in your identification and assessment of risks so that then they can be subsequently and adequately addressed, right? So this section focuses on the management of risk, so the risk management framework. Section 2.02 looks at the overall implementation, operationalization of the Cybersecurity Act, right? The Act, as it is, has to be fully rolled out, fully deployed to be able to gain the merits or the intended benefits of the Act itself. The next, Section 2.04, focuses on the establishment of cybersecurity assurance program for CI sectors. This refers to the vetting and licensing accreditation of cybersecurity professionals, cybersecurity service providers, so that when they are offering you services, you are assured that they have been vetted, and so they are coming in to do a competent job, similar to what you do for the general public in educating professionals so that they can go into industry and provide competent service. We do similar for professionals and service providers in the cyberspace. And lastly, we look at the establishment of a mechanism for regular vulnerability disclosure. Again, incidents must be reported. Vulnerabilities that you identify must be reported. It helps us also notify, also alert, also advise other stakeholders, and not just the education sector, but the other 13 sectors, so that collectively we can secure ourselves. As they say, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So there's that need for collective responsibility. The next document, the next directive we'll look at is the Directive for the Protection of CII. Now, this directive establishes a baseline cybersecurity requirements that all CI owners must adhere to. All institutions, taking that the education sector has been designated as CI, you must adhere to these baseline requirements, okay? The directive also looks at reporting of incidents, which we've spoken about. Within 24 hours, they must be reported. And processes, procedures for performing audits to ensure compliance with the directive and compliance with the Cybersecurity Act and relevant regulations. Okay, so now let's take a deeper dive into what the baseline cybersecurity requirements are. First and foremost, each and every one of you, each of your institutions must develop and implement a cybersecurity policy. Now, this policy must be developed in mind to address all relevant risks that your institution faces. This policy document must be approved and owned by your board, by your governing council, right? And it must be reviewed annually to make sure that this policy document is always up to date, is always addressing the actual threats that your institutions face at the moment, right? Furthermore, each of your institutions must designate an accountable official of senior management level rank who is responsible, who focuses on cybersecurity governance, policy, strategy. Again, all this is based on how important your sector is, how critical it is. There must be an accountable officer of that level who can speak to the board who owns the cybersecurity policy document, and explain how important it is to implement cybersecurity measures, to allocate resources for the protection of your critical systems. So this is what the policy section of the directive states. Then the technical and organizational measures, it looks at certain controls such as the importance of identifying what your critical assets are, the importance of engaging your staff in awareness creation, in training, right, to make sure your staff understand why a policy is in place and understand why they must adhere to it. There's even a need, based on the criticality of your data, that your staff who have access to this critical data should undergo background checks to make sure that you are trusting the right people with this sensitive critical data, which really belongs to the Ghanaian people. So there's a need to make sure that that measure is also in place. So, and it also looks at the importance of performing regular risk assessments and audits, again, to ensure compliance, to ensure we are collectively protected. Other section looks at the importance of incident reporting, again, please, within 24 hours. And the need for audits to ensure compliance. The final section looks at the fact that if, and again, it's based on how critical your systems are, if your institution is going to perform any activity which is going to cause a significant disruption to any of your critical systems, you must seek clearance and guidance from the Honorable Minister before proceeding with that activity. Again, these are your systems are very critical. It's essential that we get that they are always running for the nation. Now, the next document we'll look at is the risk assessment framework, which again I mentioned was launched last month. It serves two main focuses. It seeks to provide a structure on how each of your institutions should perform the risk assessment. And it also provides a structure for the reporting, how the reporting should be done. There's a requirement that after performing the risk assessment, you must submit reports to the CSA. So the framework also gives you that structure on how that should be done. Okay, so here we'll look at the risk assessment risk assessment process. First step, you need to prepare for the assessment. To do this, you need to thoroughly understand your organization, your educational organization. What is your educational mandate? You need to identify what IT processes and assets you have. And then you need to determine what the scope and purpose of this risk assessment will be. This is all in preparation for the assessment. Then you need to conduct the assessment. So here you need to identify your threat sources, you need to identify vulnerabilities, and then you need to in order to determine the likelihood and impact of these threat events to your organization. Next, you need to communicate these results. These results must be communicated to decision makers, to key stakeholders, including the CSA, right? These risks have to be communicated so that we can take the necessary steps to address them to secure your system. And lastly, you need to maintain assessment. There should be a designated official who is responsible for monitoring these risks and making sure, and again, performing regular risk assessments, because you always need to be current in the risks you're facing, so you know that you are prioritizing risks as they deserve and addressing them so that you don't face a disruption of your critical business operations. Now we'll look at the organizational policies, and we're going to focus on the cybersecurity policy. So again, this, first of all, has to be owned from the top. It has to be owned by your governing councils, right? Your boards, they need to own it. They have ultimate accountability for this. And they set the tone in indicating to every member of the organization how important this cybersecurity policy is. Based on this guidance from the governing council, the senior management is then able to implement the strategy offered from above, from the council, and then allocates the necessary resources to the implementation and operationalization of the strategy. Empowered with the tools and adequate resources, the cybersecurity professionals and IT professionals within your organizations are then able to execute on the operations of the strategy and then continuously improve to optimize it. And then lastly, the staff empowered with training are able to then adhere to the policy and follow it adequately. Lastly, we'll look at certifications. So again, you must register your critical systems so that we can help protect your systems. Next, licensing accreditation regime. As institutions in the CI sector, in the education sector, you must engage tier 1 cybersecurity service providers. And you have to make sure that all professionals you engage have been accredited by the institution. And if you have cybersecurity establishments within your organization, such as a security operations center, a forensic lab, the authority must accredit these establishments. And then you must, at international best practice, ISO 27001, following the NIST cybersecurity framework, you need to adhere to international best practice as well. Cybersecurity is a global theme. As we know, compliance is important. Reputational protection prevents you being imposed with sanctions and administrative fines, which is in the Act. It secures your data, secures your systems, improves the resilience of your organization to ongoing and constant cyber threats. It protects your organizational resources, improves the awareness of your staff, and mitigates cybersecurity threats to the organization overall. So I thank you very much for your audience. Thank you very much.
Alex, thank you very much, and I sincerely apologize for the pressure. Thank you. It was at a very short notice, but you've brought in really very substantial content to our maiden cybersecurity education conference. We'll be taking the photograph, but before we do that, kindly permit me to acknowledge some institutions that have given enormous support to the authority in the organization of this year's National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Virtual InfoSec Africa, our lead sponsor, thank you very much. Star Assurance, UNODC, Council of Europe, Bank of Ghana, National Communications Authority, NCA, Ostec Limited. Ostec is actually here and they will deliver farewell message, a very brief one. E-Crime Bureau, GDS Africa, Ghana Internet Safety Foundation, IT Market, EIB Network, TikTok, Dynamic Data Solutions, DDS, Wisconsin International University College, Innovari Africa, SGS Ghana Limited, Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Accra Technical University, Apotica, SNIT, MTN Ghana, Access Bank Limited, Comfort Ghana, Deloitte Ghana, Zenith Bank, and AT. Special thanks to all of you. We'll take the photograph, our dignitaries, the Director General, and all our very special guests, the speakers. If you could kindly come here, I will take the photograph behind the backdrop. So, DG, if I may have you with your guest here for us to take their photos. Thank you very much. The Executive Secretary, VCG, kindly join, please. Thank you. Here, sir. So kindly, all the Vice Chancellors kindly join the photo for the dignitaries. When they are done, the panelists will join them. So Dr. Yankson, Professor Yankson, together with your team, kindly join them for this photo. All the panelists, please join this session. Thank you all very much. discussion that is going to feature extensively in the report that we'll be sending to the sector ministry. And I believe strongly that this is going to have a policy direction initiative. The panel discussion will be moderated by Professor Benjamin Yankson. Professor Yankson is an associate professor and graduate program director, Cyber and Risk, University at Albany, founder and director, HIKE IoT and PCCRT Lab. Professor Yankson has over 15 years of experience in academia and industry, and he's a renowned expert in cybersecurity, risk management, and data analysis. He has taught various courses in cybersecurity, information security, and risk assessment, and he has led numerous initiatives in cybersecurity education and research. He flew in all the way from US yesterday to Ghana. With a hand of applause, please help me welcome our moderator for the maiden Cybersecurity Education Conference, Professor Benjamin Yankson, as he introduces his panel. Prof, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be among some of world-renowned academics, dignitaries that we have in-house, and also my colleagues in academia, some from industry. It's a privilege. It's my pleasure to serve today as the moderator for this great initiative on empowering higher education for cybersecurity, resilience, and digital rights. From both the Director Generals that have spoken and also from the representative from the Ministry of Education, we've come to accept that higher education plays a critical role in cybersecurity education and capacity building. I think stands as playing a unique role for Ghana. So with this, to start a conversation on the importance the education sector plays in this sphere. And why is this important? It's important in multiple facets. The first is education sector should serve as driven purpose in educating our youth. There is also the intended initiative of how to develop curriculum that develop mastery that could be shared among. There is also the importance that we understand how education, the role of education plays, that institutions that are able to do this the right way get recognized, and at the same time providing these institutions the flexibility to be able to design programs still within the ministry's framework that allow them to deliver mandates as stipulated by both the Ministry of Education, Ghana Cybersecurity Authority, GTech, and other institutions that are needed. With this said, we have a really great panel, that comprises of people from both the education sector, from industry, from ministry, that are going to share ideas on how do we proceed from here? How do we set up Ghana in such a way that the education sector could be contributing significantly into the development of capacity for future jobs for students, could serve as the touchstone for world-class research that it's country-specific, that is sector and country-specific to Ghana, and how do we address those things? And also to provide that groundwork. So I'd like to introduce our first panelist. Unfortunately, the first panelist was not able to make it today, but in that capacity will be represented by Mr. Jacob Akono. Mr. Jacob Akono will be representing Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTech, and at the same time will also play a role in addressing questions specific that are targeted to Ghana Education, Ministry of Education, Ghana. Mr. Jacob Akono Tete is an accomplished IT professional with over a decade of experience leading innovative technology solution within both sectors in education. I think his role will be very important. So welcome, Mr. Thank you. The second panelist that will be joining us to share his varied experience in the legal and compliance space in cybersecurity that might be applied to the education sector is Dr. Jumo Siedu Tonza. Dr. Tonza is the Deputy Director General, Regulatory Operations, Cybersecurity Authority. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome you, sir. The next panelist is a colleague and also within the academic sector, Dr. Sylvester Hatsu. Dr. Hatsu is the Director of ICT, Accra Technical University. The next person is coming from industry. I think within academia, we also need industry perspective. I think one of the fundamental important aspects that we've learned through both Director Generals of Ghana Cybersecurity Authority and GTEC and also the Minister of Education representation is experiential learning playing a key role in programs that are developed by tertiary institutions to allow students to gain valid experience whilst going to the program. And so here we have Osu Ampong, Emmanuel, he's from Deloitte. Mr. Ampon is a consultant in cyber strategy transformation digital at Deloitte, Ghana. And lastly, we have myself. So colleagues, today I'd like to welcome you. This is a conversation, and how this panel is going to work is each panelist have a designated question that the program has pre-written to ask. Outside of that, the intention is to have a dialogue. There is no right or wrong answer here, but how do we leverage probably everybody should be awake by now. those are the people those should be awake by now. So each panelist will have about 2 minutes to answer this kind of question. After that, we also have the opportunity to take questions from the crowd, from you. So the first question that I have pre-scripted question is to address specifically in the review of the ICT in education policy. And this question originally was crafted for Fred Answer, who is now being represented by Jacob Akono. If you could, so let's start this way. Let's start with a fundamental question that every panelist will be able to contribute to. And this is one of the predominantly interesting event that is actually happening online with students. And the questions start with the rise of cyberbullying, admission scams, sextortion among students. What we want to know is, most of us here are parents. If you're not a parent, you have somebody that's younger in your family. So the question that generally I wanted to start with this conversation is to do with aspects of cybersecurity that impact everybody in Ghana. Given the rise in cyberbullying, admission scams, extortion among students, what do you think are some of the mechanisms and safeguards that could be put in place to help the youth of Ghana? So we'll start with Mr. Jacob Akono, if you want to share some of your opinions on things that could be done.
Hello. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Jackson. I think some of the things that we have to look at to safeguard our users and students And not only them, but also staff and the whole economy of education stems from awareness. Basically, what you don't know, you can't fight. That is the background of everything that we have to do. And like my Director General said earlier, these things have become an afterthought to the various systems that we run. But if we are able to be informed about them, knowing exactly the kind of and the level of threat that we are exposed to, I think from then we can begin some solutions that could help us going forward. Basically, the solutions are on the scale. It's not one size fits all, depending on the awareness and the knowledge level of the individual or the sector or the person you are dealing with. But I think it begins with awareness.
Okay, great. So we've had one awareness. Any of the panelists want to chime in on this issue of cyberbullying, scams, sextortions that is happening rampantly within our communities and within our schools?
Yes, good morning. Jacob Bradley mentioned it, is awareness. A teenage girl knows that my body or part of my body, sensitive part of my body, cannot be touched by anybody without my consent, and they're able to report. We teach them these things in the schools. Parents talk to them about it in their homes, and the society will fight anybody who tries to abuse a girl child. It's the same thing with cyberbullying and other stuff that's happening around. If the child is aware, or the young person is aware that this is a right that is being abused, and they know the remedies that are available, they will protect themselves. The society also being aware, also protect them. Because awareness, all about awareness.
All right, thank you. Okay, so anybody else want to chime in? Or awareness is...
Awareness is critical, and I would not belabor that point. But in addition to awareness, we should be thinking about institutions and frameworks. Human beings are essentially rational actors, and we work based on incentives and disincentives. And so to the extent that we can secure systems and make it not lucrative for malicious actors in cyberspace to attack certain systems, we would keep them away. To the extent that we have institutions and structures which would serve as deterrents to malicious actors in cyberspace, we will keep them away. And so institutions are also critical in addition to awareness.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. So I think I also want to add up to what Dr. said. From the policy, from the guidance point of view, now, if you look at sextortion, the most vulnerable is the youth, because they are the most that uses social media, the internet. And one thing I would say is, as parents, there should be some level of control from parents in knowing how to regulate how our kids use their devices. Most times it starts from what we call sex texting. It starts from having friends online and trying to share these images, and from there it moves to sextortion. So I believe that beside policy, beside control, parents must also play a very pivotal role in regulating how our kids, our youth uses their phone and also on the internet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think from what we've heard from all panelists, one of the key roles that I think educational institutions and tertiary education institutions can start considering is how do we build awareness into the curriculum? How do we build cybersecurity awareness as the basis and the background on some of the content that we teach in class? So the second question is targeted for Mr. Jacob, and this is directly a GTech question. GTech plays a critical role in assuring quality and relevance in tertiary education. What are some of the means by which GTech intend to integrate foundational cybersecurity and digital ethics into higher education and institutional curricula?
Thank you very much for the question. So GTEC, knowing its role as a regulator for the higher education sector, I'd like to approach this in that space because we regulate, we collaborate as well, and then we also do some quality assurance. From the perspective of curriculum development, institutional accreditation, continuous quality assurance in the higher education space, these are areas that from the beginning to the end, either the institution begins or we begin, and then we collaborate in the middle, and at the end of the day come up with documents that guide our curriculum and how they are implemented in our institutions. In this scale, we are looking at, like my Director General said, which I'll just re-emphasize, digital ethics and cybersecurity training should not be left at the doorstep of just the technical implementers of these systems. From the presentation that was made from the Cybersecurity Authority, we could see that the vulnerability is across everybody and not only the technical people. We first expose ourselves before any other thing happens to the system. Like he also said, the weakest link is a human being, and we are working in a human-based institution. So curriculum development is one area that we are looking at, infusing this digital ethics into the system. We are teaching people, and after they are taught, how do they implement or use the systems that we have exposed them to. Continuously, we talk about industry and academia bridge. We have this system, we have this partnership that we have with Cybersecurity Authority. Accreditation processes are done not only by GTEC, it's done on a collaborative front with faculty and also professional bodies like the Cybersecurity Authority, Data Protection Authority, Nursing and Midwifery Council institutions. So these are institutions that strengthen our role and work in the accreditation process. Continuous capacity building for faculty, we can't leave them behind. What they don't know, they can't teach. And your curriculum is as best as the people teaching it. So we can't leave faculty behind in this. So continuous professional development for faculty, funding, like we have said earlier on, must be always be made available for these kind of trainings to strengthen the arm of these institutions to be able to implement. Lastly, I'll talk about local, maybe local enforcement and local policies within the institutions that can help the institutions that before or after accreditation, before GTEC enforces their quality assurance and continuous implementation things, you have a guiding principle and a policy that board and council support and helps you to be able to operationalize it. I think this is how we want to support this process.
Thank you so much. So from all of us here in higher education and tertiary institutions, what we the support that we're getting from GTEC is the willingness to collaborate and work with various stakeholders, including CSA, the education sector, and other aspects to provide curriculum framework that support our initiative. To jump off this, the second question goes to CSA, Dr. Jamal Siedu. CSA has been instrumental in securing Ghana's digital ecosystem over the past few years. How does the authority envision the role of higher education in sustaining this effort?
Thank you, Dr. Yankson. Higher educational institutions are actually perceived by us, and they are really partners in that effort. And so if you look at our law, the Cybersecurity Act of 2020, Section 61D makes it mandatory for us to engage in research and development, and we must do this with institutions of higher learning. And so that is mandatory. So by default, statutorily, they are partners. You would want to think about, just taking off from the GTEC rep, you would want to think about curriculum development. And so, first of all, it's a fact that we have
a very huge workforce gap in terms of cybersecurity. Some authorities rate it at about 4 million. Now, how do we fill that gap? We would need a workforce to be prepared, and that becomes the role of tertiary education institutions of higher education and learning, and research as well. And so curriculum development, they should have curricula in which they will train those who would become the workforces to take up the roles that we need as far as securing our cyberspace and making it resilient is concerned. Now, beyond that, you also would have research itself, that policies and interventions that we have for any issue and for cybersecurity as well must be data-driven. And so who else is on top of research than institutions of higher education and learning? And related to research as well, you have policy development, that when you even have institutions and interventions, you want to think of them as being dynamic and responsive to evolving trends. And the cliche is that cybersecurity is a fast evolving domain. And so in policy development and reforms, we need to see institutions of higher education and learning as partners in that endeavor. You also want to think about even, we've made the point about awareness creation, that capacity building and awareness creation is key in terms of ensuring cybersecurity. And so if you have institutions of higher education and learning and research, and if you look at the numbers that they control and they churn, who else would be in a better place to train cybersecurity ambassadors than these institutions? So I think that they have a very big role. I mean, the Cybersecurity Authority sees them as partners. In fact, as far as this curriculum agenda is concerned, they are actually leaders in that regard. GTEC, it's the regulator in that space, and these institutions are those that would design their own curriculum, in accordance with what the regulator says, and with the objective of helping us attend to the critical socioeconomic realities that we have. For instance, like filling in that workforce gap in cybersecurity. And of course, so they are partners and they are actually leaders, and we need that collaboration. So it was exciting to listen to the two DGs talking about synergies and talking about how we must ensure a workforce that is digitally savvy and yet ethically minded. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is really great. And I think the takeaway from the education sector is CUSA is interested to continue doing the great work they're doing, leveraging on the resources in education, building collaborative bridges to be able to sustain the great work that they're doing. What I want to let the audience know that there's going to be a Q&A after this. So I know some of you are sitting on important questions that might not be reflected here. And you will have that opportunity to ask your educational sector or sector-specific questions to the panelists. To build on where we are now, we want to have also an academic view on this. And so this is where Dr. Hetsu comes in. Do you want to share with us how your institutions modeling the integration of cyber resilience and digital rights into the institutional culture, teaching and research? Can you share with us the fundamental nature, how your institution have integrated cyber resilience, digital rights, and institutional culture into teaching and research?
Thank you, Prof. Youngson. This question is actually at the heart of our mandate as a forward-thinking university. We approach this in three main areas. The first one is our institutional culture itself. And that's what led us to initiate a very strong partnership with the CSA, which has become a very prominent annual event that that we run every year to create awareness for the university community that we have even extended beyond the university community to other industry partners and stakeholders. So we do a lot of cybersecurity awareness as part of our culture for both staff and students. Beyond the October events, we also do regular awareness at any opportunity, something is sent out or spoken about security awareness. That's one. Then in terms of curriculum, we have a 4-year bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, and it's very attractive to students. Now, students actually these days will leave computer science, the traditional computer science, which used to be the hot cake, and rather go for cybersecurity, the bachelor's degree. In fact, the first batch of students who have completed a 4-year program will graduate this month. And the number has shot up to be more than 500 within the space of 4 years. That's with curriculum. And we've seen the demand. He spoke about the gap, the talent gap for expertise in the area. So Accra Technical University has positioned itself to be able to produce the students, the talent to fill that gap as far as the academic curriculum area is concerned. Beyond that, our 4-year degree programs have what we nickname a heavy dose of ICTs. And these ICT programs are supposed to contain some element of cybersecurity awareness and hygiene in the curriculum. And we should start thinking beyond the traditional computer literacy, that word computer literacy, to rather inculcating cybersecurity into the curriculum like the previous speakers have spoken about. So for ATU, been created by the call that we have received from the attacks that happen every day. These attacks create job opportunities, and then we build and develop the manpower to fill them.
All right. Thank you so much. I think one of the things that I want to share with the audience is that Accra Technical University might not be the only institution that is benefiting from the demand in cybersecurity education. So if your institution is offering cybersecurity, we want to encourage you also to continue doing the promotional work that Accra Technical University is doing. So I want to share that. But I think one of the areas that I wanted you to share light on is what I've heard both from GTech and CSA is the issue of having good research, world-renowned research coming from institutions. Will you be able to share some of, not even just Accra Technical Institution, but the general notion of some of the collaborative research work in cybersecurity, how important it is to this conversation?
Yes, of course, academic research is supposed to impact industry and the community that we live in. Recently, the cybersecurity program was actually sitting with computer science department, and because of the growth in the numbers, the university management has decided to carve it out as an independent department. So we have new faculty with expertise from cybersecurity and forensic and different areas who have now been recruited, and they will fit into the output of research, special research in that domain. And you know that research is now more of multidisciplinary than we used to do, one silo, one area. So with this new faculty, a lot of collaboration, multidisciplinary research impacting industry and also other institutions that we partner with.
Thank you so much. And I think this speaks to that. All academic institutions and higher education that I hear, one of the key things that we could bring to the playing ground for the growth of cybersecurity in Ghana is some of the research that we could do to support Ghana in terms of determining the attack landscape and other moving target that we need to. This brings us to an interesting portion of it, and I think that we've had opportunity to hear from both CSA, GTech. We have opportunity to hear from academic, but I think a lot of what is left behind is industry, what is actually happening in the field. As a practitioner, before I went into academia, when you're in the field, there are variables that are there that you will never see in the classroom. And so it's always a good thing to hear what is actually happening other than what is being taught in class. And this brings to me, Mr. Emmanuel Usuapong. So if you want to share with us, I'm going to combine two questions in one for the interest of time. If you want to share with us your industry perspective, what are some of the pressing cybersecurity skills gaps that universities and the government need to pay attention to? And if you also want to share a little bit on basic knowledge on some of the attack spheres that we should be aware of.
All right, thank you very much. So I'll say from the industry perspective, we have students coming in with great competency, but one thing that we feel there's a lack in is the practicality of it. And so I'll start by stating three things that, from the industry perspective, we believe that partnering with the government and academia can improve. The first one is practicality and applied competence. We realize that most of the students coming out, they have the understanding of all those cyber concepts, but the only thing left is them applying that on the field. And for the industry, we are looking for students who are industry ready because of the diverse nature of the cyber space. We're looking for students who are, or graduates who are cyber ready. And so one of the key things is having that practicality attached to what they know. Second thing will be on cyber risk and governance understanding. Now, cybersecurity is not only technical, it is actually a business enabler. Right? It is the key business function for most organizations. And so having to know, understanding cyber risk management, compliance, the Data Protection Act, understanding these key frameworks is very important for our students or graduates to be ready to understand how business marry with security. The last thing is being aware of emerging technologies. Most times you realize that, okay, we have a pathing of what we already know. And so there's a missing piece, which is aligning ourselves with the current trends. Example is AI, machine learning, blockchain, or these are new technologies that our graduates must be aware of. They must have knowledge and training in, because these are the current trends when it comes to the cyberspace. The second bit of your question is on the current cybersecurity threats. Now, if you look at, our region, Ghana, we have tailored attack that we see every single day, from the industry perspective. Now, I'll look at some few ones from the banking sector, from the telecommunication sector, and also from the health sector. If you look at the banking sector, one of the key threats is impersonation and identity fraud. And right now, with the emergence of AI, is making it even worse. With deepfake and other AI bias modules are making it even worse. And so with the banking sector, what they are facing is attackers, stealing user data, trying to impersonate people, performing transactions, and all these abnormal behaviors when it comes to our account balances or our financial records. The second thing for a telco, or I'll say in general, is what we know as the Mumu fraud. Okay, I think it's right now it's going at a very higher scale now. If you look at the trends, the trends around the country, you realize that people are falling victim of this. And so, just like I mentioned, if the industry has or we are partnering with the government and academia, I think these awareness training, these skills must be added to our curriculum to make graduates ready for the industry.
Thank you very much. I think one of the things that we all in the education sector should learn from the answer that's here is, how do we build experiential learning into our programs? How do you, as a professor, as a VC, as a lecturer, work with communities, like work with companies in your area to gain internship experiences for your students. And so part of it is, how do you look for companies that sometimes they might not pay the students, right? But it's better to have a student leverage an assignment in class, take opportunity to work for a company for free and be hired by a company. So experiential learning is very, very important. I think one of the takeaways from this is how do we build experiential learning into cybersecurity curriculum? For the interest of time, I will be asking a last question to all of us to think critically. And one of the things fundamentally that we've seen is the fast pace of technology. And this could be cybersecurity, could be emerging technology. Technology fast, outpace long. There was respect for the cybersecurity.
Thank you. So the way the technology space is like you said, very, very fast moving. Even for industry, they are playing catch up. How much more education where we spend 4 years to come out and practice, minimum. As we sit here, there are things like zero-day vulnerabilities that are even there that we don't even know, and we are yet to fight. So we can't start like it's something that we want to begin and take our time to grow into it. Over the years, GTech has partnered industry in many ways. As far back as 2014, we had collaboration where we brought professional programs into academia and into curriculum. Most of our universities benefited from that. But that discussion wasn't twofold. If you don't have a cybersecurity program, ethics or data science program, you develop one with the industry and then you run it. And by the end of the day, the student gets the academic credentials or certificate and then the professional as well, so that they are ready for work. The second aspect is they had to integrate such that you have yours, but then you pick some areas that your curriculum lacks. And industry brings in some tools to support you to make sure that is done, because we can't start from scratch. So that is one area that we have implemented, and we keep encouraging industry to bring these things to academia and not wait for students to graduate, because like he said, they are looking for ready students. How do they get ready if they are not getting even internship opportunities to prepare them? Some people, students go to industry for internships and they tell them they don't have space. Unfortunately, it may be true, but this is the reality that we face. We are looking at over 400,000 students at a go. How do you consume these people? At some point in our lives when we were under crisis to make educational resources zero-rated for academia, and these are steps that we can't take. So we can't remain in a static environment. We need to introduce some agility. We know we have our accreditation system and processes which takes time, but we need to introduce some flexibility so that some amendments can be made, some infusions can be made at the university level, and then we can both rectify it and ensure that it's good for the whole sector. So this is what I will say for that.
All right, thank you. For the interest of time, one of the major foundations that we've learned through the panel discussion is empowering higher education in cybersecurity isn't just about technology. It's about building resilient systems, resilient curriculum, informed citizen, informed student, ethical framework to safeguard the digital future of Ghana. With this said, we want to lay the floor open for questions from the audience. So we might be able to take 1 or 2 questions from the floor for the panelists. So do we have anybody that have a question to ask? Okay.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan. I work with Camfed. First, I must commend the Cybersecurity Authority for this Made in Education conference, and also for the regional geographical balance. When they were doing the introductions, I saw quite varied locations where we have quite significant representation, which I think it's a good thing in what we are trying to do. So I must commend the Cybersecurity Authority for that. One thing I must make a point I want to make is that I was expecting to see some gender balance in the representation in the panel discussion, and I didn't see that. So I would want to touch on that as well. So maybe next time if we could get that gender balance in the representation for the panelists. I'm happy with what we are talking about today, but I'm looking at long term. And I'm saying long term because the cyberspace is very varied. You could tell if you have some experience in the space that geographically the threats vary. So a threat that is rampant in Accra, you'd go to Tumu, I heard somebody from Tumu, you go to Tumu and it's completely different. I'm thinking we are in a time where we should be talking about cybersecurity not at the tertiary level. Because now we have children who are born and they grew up with technology. Let me cite an example. So when we are growing up, one of the things we hear is if you see a traffic light, there is something you should know. Red means stop. I'm sure almost everybody knows that because we grew up and the traffic lights had been invented by then. Now we have children who are born and they meet technology as part of their growth. So I think that's long term or short to medium term. This discussion should start from the grassroots. Children should grow up with technology and cybersecurity and ethics and responsible use of all these technologies as part of the growth. So to the rep from GES, I would want to find out from them what the plan is to start right from the grassroots level and not the tertiary level as we're discussing today. Thank you.
Thank you. This one I'll jump on. Okay, I've been saved.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question, and thanks for your observation as well. Thank you. I'm going to actually relegate that one to my program organizers. The project manager is in trouble for being gender biased. Thank you on that. But to be honest with you, Cybersecurity Authority, we are the most gender balanced institution per ratio in the whole country. Come and see for yourself. Thank you. Now, when it comes to your question, we are working. Currently, we are putting together, actually, stake office in March is to look at the national cybersecurity strategy and policy, and then also took the president's manifesto. And then I looked at that, and I came out with 3.5-year strategy. The awareness creation and capacity building from the basic level through secondary and into tertiary. And in fact, the plan is to implement that of the basic level by end of next year. And that's going to be the very first. So work is currently ongoing, and it was even the very first conversation I had with the GTech boss this morning when we came. And he was guiding us which other institutions we should approach and who should be involved. So work is currently ongoing. Materials are being developed, and then it will be sent to the right department. We are working with Ministry of Education. They are aware. So I understand the fear as a father, as a brother, and I have daughters as well, and they're in school. My daughter asked me, Daddy, when was the last time you changed your password? Where did she learn it from? Because maybe they're teaching them in school. So we believe that to be able to have a cultural shift, to be able to have a population that understands security and technology, we need to start from the basic levels. Because for them, they play with it. They can even ask their grandfathers, Grandpa, when did you last change your PIN? It comes as a joke, but then the grandpa will remember what the little child has said and do it. So we are working on this, and we assure you that we are going to have materials, both online and offline, for our children, and if approved into the curriculum, they'll be taught in schools, There will be a lot more televised ones as well for during the public activities as well. So our children will begin to propagate this cultural shift for the country. Thank you.
Any more question? Okay, please give it to you. It's been up for a while. And just to save my job, because my Director General mentioned me, in his speech, in the Director General's speech, he mentioned that the Cybersecurity Authority, last year and this year, we've been working with SENDLOS to put up a solid, cybersecurity policy for the basic school. So it's one area that, especially next year, we'll see SENDLOS and the Ghana Education Service taking a lot of action. For the past 5 years and more, the Cybersecurity Authority has also been engaging senior high schools on the National Cybersecurity Challenge. And so even before the climax of the challenge, the authority has been going to a number of schools across the country. So there are lots of things that the authority has been doing as far as education of the children are concerned. I hope I have saved my job.
Mrs. Bauer, if I could just add this, the logical thing would have been to build this culture from a, loosely speaking, bottom-up kind of way. If we say in pre-tertiary is at the bottom and tertiary is on the top. But we have an existential issue. Workforce skill gap, cyber threats, malicious activity, and we need to respond to them in the short term. How do we address this? Probably we need to start with how to create the workforce, probably at the same time, simultaneously, while working on this culture that we want to have a national outlook. But if we have limited resources, how do we do it? But at least let's kickstart the discussion. So one of the things to, and that probably will be said in the summing up after this panel session, is that the follow-up to this discussion would be a national conversation on how to work on the curricula below the tertiary level. And so that's a very important thing to address. In terms of the gender dimension of things, October has been a month-long series of activities on cybersecurity. We just had the Women in Cybersecurity program. You may be jealous to know that that was held at the former Holiday Inn, and they had a better treatment than what we are having here. But that was a 3-day program, which was looking at how to mentor ladies and prepare them for careers in cybersecurity, and to get them as people who are disproportionately affected by some issues in cybersecurity to address their own issues because they know them best. And so the gender dimension is not lost on us. In fact, tomorrow I'll be at another program at Tomrick Hotel, and this is a program by the Gender Center, which is trying to tackle issues of online sexual exploitation and abuse of women and children. So it's a very big matter on our agenda. And that's just what to say about this. But we are thinking that, as the reality has it, we have an urgent workforce gap to fill. We have critical information infrastructure to protect. We have cybersecurity technology standards that we must develop and ensure that our systems are resilient and that we have safeguards to the risks in cyberspace. And that, given that reality, we may have to engage, leaders like you to see what we can do about the short term whilst we work towards the medium term and then the long term strategy. And so we welcome your inputs on that, and it's going to be a collaborative effort. But don't forget that it's a trinity. We have academia, industry, and then the regulators like ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, your question, sir.
Can I just add one more before? So just to give you some comfort, as my DG mentioned, the colleges of education are well represented here, and what do? They teach teachers. So we are the right place. We have the people who are teaching those who will teach these people in our institutions. So please be comfortable. We are there.
Now, okay.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, panelists. Greetings, Director General. My name is Komla Elikim. I'm co-founder and CEO of Crawford Systems. Me and my wife have been doing cybersecurity together for about 50 years now, combined for the United States military and government, joint chiefs of staff and things of that nature. We've been here for 3 years now, because of course I'm home now, and I wanted to speak from the private sector in regards to the shareholder for cybersecurity. Education is really big, which is why one of our mantras is the mind first when it comes to education and training through cybersecurity. We understand that cybersecurity is 80% governance, a little 10% of hacking, but the most of it is just governance and putting legal requirements and fail-safes and layers of defense to protect against your assets that you have. A lot of comments were made in regards to education and where do we start and how and where we're going. So from the institutions where we talked about starting from the primary schools and into the universities, we've been working on training like that. We call it Cyber Bites, where we give you small bits of information to the youth and take it and align it with their lifestyle so they can adapt it more easier. We've learned that a lot of times when we talk technical, you may understand the word, you may know the word, but not understand its real meaning. So we have a capacity building course that we teach. It's about 16 weeks now, and we're teaching at a level of what you can say the ISC squared for those who want to understand cybersecurity from a governance standpoint. That's what's needed, mostly than the technical, to be honest with you, because you already have the ICT in place. Everyone knows how a switch works, a router works. But policies is very important. And how you write your policies and how you can enforce those policies determine if what you're trying to protect is going to be, or what you're trying to protect can be resilient to a cyber attack. So I wanted to know from the lack of the gap that we have in unemployment. We believe that Africa can fill that gap. Just like India filled the software development gap, we believe that Africa can fill the cybersecurity awareness gap. My question is, how much influence is being put into the private sector, which is where I operate at, in regards of ensuring that we can provide the proper services as a cybersecurity provider to the nation? I know there's a lot of bills being put out now, about 13 of them, and I would love to have a sit down with those decision makers since we've been doing this for a little over 25 years, me and my wife who's right over there, we've been doing it for a while, and we would love to provide any type of support from the private sector to help strengthen the education system as well as other services and infrastructure. A lot of these kids are going to get degrees, but where are they going to go? There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be put in place. Or I would say, as you talked about, once they leave here, they can intern somewhere. We're in the process of interning. Do these organizations understand that they need cybersecurity outside of the critical infrastructures? The person who owns the grocery store, do they know that they need cybersecurity? And they should have an intern who had a little bit of training, put into that institution so that they can help them, guide them through their business continuity plan, which most businesses don't have, or disaster recovery plan, which most businesses do not have. Now, that's my question. Is there a process for that?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this is a well-noted area, and I think what the Ghana Cybersecurity Authority is going to be taking exactly the question that you asked and figuring out how do we circle back to you to put you in the pipeline to be able to be help in this particular conversation. For the interest of time, so somebody's going to circle back to you. For the interest of time, we're probably going to be ending the panel. I'm allowed to take. So the Ghana Cybersecurity Authority is here.
I can already go into the mind of my DG, and I know he's interested in this question, but this reawakens us to the discussion around licensing and accreditation. So the starting point is that as a policy, the DG, and it's a broader government policy, we want to have local content in our cybersecurity services. And so the default is that if we have skills locally, let's use those skills locally. So the accreditation and licensing is partly, if the media is not listening, to to safeguard the accreditation of the and licensing of the Cybersecurity Authority even get are favored in international kind of jobs. And so if you have not brought yourself within that regime, you are already licensed. And then there is an industry forum as well, which you should think about. But let's always think about the general system, that you also have an administration where there is a 1 million coders program. It feeds into cybersecurity as well, data protection and all that. Now, how do we even use emerging technologies to respond to detect cybersecurity incidents, contain and respond to them or address them? Now, we need a local force to do that. And so the default is for local content. And that feeds into our licensing and accreditation. That also feeds into other broader policy initiatives like Girls in ICT, 1 million coders program, and so on. DG, you want to say what? DG has something to say.
Okay, thank you. That's a very awesome question. So that's why we have the cybersecurity law. So the law says we should do certain things. So I am mandated to ensure the ecosystem is safe and secure. I am mandated to ensure that we develop capacity within the system. So for now, we are working on building capacity. True. Then your question is, where would they work? Right? Where would they fit? Good. Now, for this, first let's take it that Cybersecurity Act came into force in 2020. So it's quite new to the ecosystem. So people are beginning to, let's put political noise aside. It is a necessity. All right? So the authority has been implementing the requirements in the law. We are at a place now. So what we are doing as an authority is to begin to enforce. When we start enforcement, which we are actually about to start really hard in January, when we start enforcement, institutions will be forced to begin to align their businesses to protect citizens' data, citizens' information, systems that will not leak citizens' bank accounts. They'll begin to vet. You know, vetting is also part of cybersecurity, to know who should have what access to which information. We sit here and people sit in telcos and you get to the Aplau border and someone is selling you a SIM card and tells you it is already registered in somebody's name. Who is producing those SIM cards? It means the wrong person has been employed somewhere. Do you understand? So when we begin enforcement, they will need the experts to sit down and work for them. So the workforce we are building will begin to find their places in the various institutions and organizations. Because it's mandatory, especially for the CIIs. They should all have cybersecurity departments, separate from IT departments. It is a necessity. The universities must have cybersecurity departments. The colleges of education, they should all have. But we need to build a workforce for them, to place them, mentor them. And it will interest you to know that a lot of private sector institutions, I mean, when I came into office, I went through some of the private sector organizations. So they briefed me how they get their staff. So they themselves pick them during national service, spend money on them, train them, and maintain them. But then when they get to a certain point, they get better offers and they move on. But when we have more in the system, it becomes like the Indian system. We can take million cybersecurity professionals from India, but you'll still have India because they have produced enough. It will take millions of IT professionals from India. It will not affect India. So we need to get to that point. And I believe the starting point is the 1 million coders. We give them the layer on which to build. Then you have a portion going into cybersecurity, a portion going into AI, a portion going into data analytics. I think we are actually on the right path. Thank you.
Thank you very much, TJ. This is really great. For the interest of time, I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody that contributed in. Oh, there's one more question? Do we have? Okay, yes. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I have one or two remarks to make. If it turn out to be a question, then indeed, as I listened through, one thing that is sinking is that sometimes in this country we have a disconnect in the policy. I was part of a team that worked on the EdTech strategy for Sendilot. And in that strategy, something that we highlighted was the integration of AI into our educational system and cybersecurity. And of course, we saw that the real threat to cybersecurity now is the emergence of AI. I was happy when Mr. Ampon from Deloitte mentioned it. Now, we need to be able to leverage on these policies and then harmonize them. And I was happy when Madame spoke about the fact that from next year, they will be working with Sendilot. If we are able to do that, then whatever that we want to achieve, I am positive that we'll be able to achieve that. The second thing is that to our regulator, you know, there are mandatory courses in the curriculum. For example, communication skills, African studies. Is it about time that we can be thinking about cyber security, replacing some of these courses, or maybe adding to it at the, from your side as a regulator? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Somebody else has a question? We want to thank you for the recommendation. I think this is something a regulator could take. We have one more question here.
It's not quite a question, it's actually just a big contribution. I'd like to say that in the world of cybersecurity and the fact that it's a very fluid environment, while we develop these policies, we should not make them like policies in education of old, where the same curriculum is taught over years. I got into IT, and I remember when I took one of my first exams in CISA from ISACA in 2009. Recently, I was helping somebody to prep, and I realized the whole curriculum is very different from what I wrote. And so I'll just say that in cybersecurity, some of these things we should also not try to reinvent the wheel. There are institutions like ISC Squared, which has CISSP and all of those curricula. Maybe we can piggyback on some of these things, pick some of the relevant, salient ones that will fix our immediate problems, roll with them now, and then make sure that these policies are actually reviewed at the most every 2 years, because there are new threats new vectors, new attacks every day. We shouldn't just do things as we have been doing. It shouldn't be business as usual. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This has been an interesting conversation, and I think the one takeaway that we all could go home with is that we individually play a critical role in the next step in making sure that Ghana cybersecurity education and capacity building evolve to the point where we're already proud of, but we could be proud of. So you play a role. So in the interest of time, I'd like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank my distinguished panelists for your contribution, and I'd like to thank the member of audience and the dignitaries that are here. Thank you very much.
Sincerely thank all of you. The authority once again would want to appreciate our partners, our sponsors, Africa, our lead sponsor, Star Assurance, UNODC, Council of Europe, Bank of Ghana, National Communications Authority, OSTEC Limited, E-Crime Bureau, GDS Africa, Ghana Internet Safety Foundation, IT Market, EIB Network, TikTok, Dynamic Data Solutions DDS, Wisconsin International University College, Innovari Africa, SGS Ghana Limited, Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Accra Technical University, Apotica, SNIT, MTN Ghana, Access Bank Limited, Comfort Ghana, Deloitte Ghana, Zenith Bank, and AT. We have one of our sponsors here to give a goodwill message briefly, just 1 minute. Representative from OSTEC, briefly, take the microphone, and quickly you will do this for me as quickly as possible, and then we'll do the closing remarks, and then we'll march out of this place. If your microphone is active, please, you can start there for the sake of time.
Okay, thank you very much. I first want to commend our panelists and the dignitaries for making this a very successful program. My name is Elmobe Fijebisen, a rep from OSTEC. I'm also a cybersecurity engineer. For over 25 years, OSTEC has delivered trusted IT and cybersecurity solutions across Ghana and West Africa. We specialize in cybersecurity solutions, managed services. We build IT infrastructure and data analytics. We are proud to actually collaborate with Cybersecurity Authority in securing our organizations. One request is that for the university heads and all, kindly reach out to us. What we will do is come to you, get what you have in protecting your system, your critical assets, then we would advise on what you can do more to protect it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother. OSTEC has stands outside the auditorium. So right after the program, you could go to their desk for more information. My pleasure to welcome the Director for Capacity Building and Awareness Creation Unit of the Cybersecurity Authority, Mr. Alex Opong, to deliver the closing remarks. Sir.
Thank you, Madam Mary. Right, just before I go ahead with the closing remarks, I understand there's an urgent request to have the driver of this vehicle to come outside. Unfortunately, I haven't got the distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me at this time to stand on existing protocols. I think we've had a good conference, a maiden conference. And I just want to touch on a few of the things that we discussed today, because there have been a lot of discussions that have gone on today. So from the Director General of the Cybersecurity Authority, he reminded us that education has been designated as a critical information infrastructure sector. It means that as institutions that fall under education, we need to ensure that we comply with the directives that go with it. He also reminded us that, look, one of the key reasons why we need to take cybersecurity serious is because by the end of 2025, we're looking at a loss of about $10.5 trillion in cybercrime alone. And that affects all sectors. I like the example that he cited within his speech that talked about even at least if we get a nurse to learn how to protect patient data, that is one step in the right direction. So we need to look at that in terms of general professions. From our Minister of Education, it stated that the idea or the area of cybersecurity is a call for action to rethink the way that we approach education in modern, with regards to modern advancements. And I believe that's basically stating that, as some of the readers or some of the speakers had already stated, we do not consider cybersecurity only as part of a module for IT-related courses, but for every single course as part of the way that we become a more resilient and more secure country, especially as we are basically embarking on digitalization for most of the things within the different sectors that we work in and the ecosystem that we live in. Our DG for GTech reminded us that cybersecurity is about people and principles. And then this is a key thing, because normally we just think that cybersecurity is all about technology, but it's really about people. And as what some of the speakers stated, awareness is very key in the sense that if people are not aware that they are possible victims of a certain crime, how do they protect themselves? So we need to be very aware. And I think education plays a key part in that, in the sense that apart from actually just creating awareness, if we fuse this into our curriculum, it means that pretty much everyone comes out of our tertiary institutions with some kind of cybersecurity knowledge. Going back to the classroom, in 2017, Ghana took a cybersecurity readiness examination, and we scored 32.6%. That is F, isn't it? Now you hear from the reader, the speakers, that by 2024, we had hit 99.27%. A star straight away in a matter of years. That gives Ghana a lot of responsibility, especially when we are thriving to become leaders, to especially lead Africa in cybersecurity excellence. It means that this kind of a conference like this is the kind of conference that other countries in Africa will be looking at and saying that, what is Ghana doing? And what are the discussions that Ghana are having with regards to education and cybersecurity? So these are conversations that we need to continue making, and we need to continue meeting in this way. During the panel discussion, we had quite a few contributions. I like the concept of ATU saying that they have institutionalized the culture of cybersecurity within the university. Our representative from industry, Deloitte, talked about ensuring that partnerships with industry should be with academia and the government to make sure that everything is harmonized and that we get to understand what we are supposed to be teaching in the classroom and then producing at the end to make sure that they meet industry demands. Our friend Jacob Kakuno talked about the fact that we need to accept the fact that when it comes to cybersecurity, we're playing catch up. And that we can't talk about starting from scratch. Wherever we are now is where we have to continue with. We have to continue that journey. I think for me, this has been a great conference, and I've enjoyed the contributions that members of the audience made, and also the questions that came out. But I think if we're going to continue this conversation, we need to make it intentional about ensuring that cybersecurity is not just for technical people or cybersecurity professionals. It's meant for all Ghanaians, and we all need to make sure that as part of our everyday education, awareness and capacity building within cybersecurity is key. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for coming to this event. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, sir. We are closing right now with a closing prayer. My colleague, Madam Sherifa Matangiba, will do the closing prayer for us. The announcement, right from here, we're going to the eatery of
Alhamdulillah, 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 Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, we thank you for a successful event. We thank you as we have discussed all these fruitful conversations. May you give us the opportunity to implement them and implement them well. We also pray for traveling mercies for all those who have come far and near. Let's raise our hands for a Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Thank you very much. So once again, on behalf of the Cybersecurity Authority and all our partners, we are sincerely grateful for your participation. And let the conversation continue. We'll be picking up a couple of